In this tutorial, I'm going to cover how to uh, create your digital icon, and I'm using this as my example. This is something I just drew up last week. This is my little shaded drawing here, and this is the finish. Okay, I actually cropped in a little bit, and this was actually created in Procreate. Although I'm going to be showing how to create this in Photoshop for this tutorial. Okay, so anyway, uh, let me begin here. I actually built most of the components for this, as far as the battery shapes, all in Adobe Illustrator. And let me go over to Illustrator here for a second. Well, I'm going to be here for more than a second because I'm going to show you some tricks here. So Illustrator is really great at creating, geometric shapes and also duplicating them. And there's just so many cool tricks in Illustrator to use that are a little quicker than working in Procreate. So that's why I decided to start this project in Illustrator. And so this was something I had done over the weekend for another class. But anyway, this was what I ended up creating for the battery. Okay, and so I'm going to show you how I went about doing this. And I'm not going to show you the whole entire thing because it would take so long. But let's get started. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and do a new document, and we'll just make it a print size page. Okay, and I'm going to place in that reference. I'm going to place in two pieces of reference here. One is, and let me go to my icon so I can see this a little faster here. One is my drawing. Okay, we'll place that in. And the other I'm going to place in is something to pick color off of, okay? And you know what? I might just even go back to here to make my life simple, because this was what I was using to pick color off of. So let's just copy that and bring it on over, okay? I'm going to place this on another layer. I hate when the layers do this, where they're just so large you can't manipulate them. Let me move this up a little bit here, so I can shorten this for the moment. And to make a new layer and do Command V. Okay. There we go. Alright, so now both of these, this will be off to the side. This, I'm going to actually turn my little drawing here. I'm going to use transparency on it, and I'm going to first go multiply and then lower the opacity. There we go. Okay, and then we'll lock this layer. We'll make a new layer, and I'll work up underneath these. And the reason why I like using Illustrator is because they've got all these shape tools, and also because of the vector paths. The vector paths are so much easier to edit. You draw a line, it might not be at the right angle. In Procreate, you could shift it, but sometimes it just doesn't come out right, and it's not as fast. In Illustrator, you just click on a point and you're done. So for starting this, what we'll start with is just an elliptical shape here, okay? And right now it's a little hard to see because it's filled with white and it's underneath. But one of the things that is bugging me, and this is a problem with Illustrator, is one of the second or third colors that come up for a layer is this light green, and you can hardly see it. So I'm going to change this to at least a dark blue for the moment. Okay, now I can see that. So this doesn't change the color of the object. What I just did, I just double clicked on the layer to bring this layer options up. But what it does is it actually changes the color of the selections. And you may know that already, but I just like to point that out. Okay, so let me bring this over here a little bit. And I'm just going to pick a color off of one of these things so that we can actually see it better. There we go. And what I want to rotate this. So this will be my initial ellipse that I'm going to actually make duplicates of. And see, this is what I like about Illustrator, is you can always just go and do that. So let's say, and I'm going to actually pick a little different color here. I'm going to pick this lighter color for the moment, or maybe this. I'm just playing around here, trying to find a color I like. And I could go too far. Oh yeah, this is what it was. There we go. Okay, so let me continue on. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually copy this. I can do Command C and then paste in front. Okay, and then I'm going to hold down my Alt key. So what it did was it pasted a copy of itself. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down the Alt key, and I can hold down Shift too. And we're just going to make this smaller. Okay, we'll change its color so it's lighter like that. And one thing about doing ellipses is, we have to think about perspective. And what I mean by that is, this would be great if this was just a flat object, but this is supposed to be showing in perspective. And the thing is that when things go back in perspective, sizes reduce. Okay, so I'm looking at the size, the scale between this shape and the edge here, and looking at this shape here and the edge there. So if this is going to go back in perspective, this would actually look better if it would go back here like this, because therefore the space between the two is going to be closest to us, and it's going to be a little smaller the farther away. Okay, and these are just important things to remember here. So we can just make this a little larger here, and as long as the center stays the same, I'm gonna actually just scale it up like this. We'll just do, not that. I'm gonna hold down my Shift key and my Alt key. Shift keeps it in proportion. There we go. Okay, I'm being a little picky here. So now let's do another one. We'll do copy, paste in front, and we'll make it for this shape right here. And as you can see, it's not going to line up with my drawing, but that's okay. We want to make this better than the drawing. The drawing is just a guide. Okay, that's what you always got to remember, is your drawing is just a guide to help you with. Okay, make sure that's a copy there. Okay, and we can move this back, because again, this would be set further back. I'm having a little, there we go. Okay, now let's change the color of that so we can see that, and we'll change it to that color. Okay, and then let's go and do a copy, Command C, and then we'll paste in front, and we'll change its color for a second here, just before we start moving it. I'm going to pick that lighter pink color there for the moment, and this will not look identical to my other one, but we're going to move this up a little bit, and I'm going to hold down the Alt and the Shift key. There we go. And then what I'm going to do is I'll probably just move this just a little bit so it'll look better. That's the other thing about working too, is like you might have all these guides, but as far as smart guides, but you got to look at this as far as what looks best. And so now, once I do that, I'm going to take this shape, and I'm just going to use my direct selection tool to click on this point and hit delete. And what that'll do is I'll delete part of that circle, and then I'll get my pen tool, and I'll just wait until I get that little slash there. There we go. That tells me I'm on that anchor point, and I'm going to connect up with it. And we're just going to go across like this. Okay, and so you see how fast that stuff is, and yes, it doesn't quite line up with my drawing, but like I said, you've always got to look at things in terms of making them better and improving them, and so that's what I've got so far. So now let's do the body of this thing, and I'm going to just one thing I could do is, I'm going to just start dragging this, but hold down my Alt key, and that will copy it. It will make a duplicate. And we're just going to drag it down to here, and then I'm going to distort it. And the reason why is because if we're looking at a cylinder and we're looking at it in perspective, the ellipse closest to us is going to be much more distorted, meaning that it's going to be much more squished. So as it goes away from us, it's going to become more circular, okay? And therefore, the curvature, outer curvature, is going to be much greater than it would be here, because that's the distortion that happens in perspective, okay? And these are just things I like to talk about because I think it's a lot of people just don't understand this entirely, or it hasn't been explained to them. Okay, so let me click on this, and we'll hit delete. Very good. And then we'll do, I'm going to make a copy of that. Okay, we'll use that later. And then I'm just going to get my pen tool. We'll go up here. We'll go across. And then we'll come back down. And then let's pick a different color. Maybe a little, darker color. Yeah, that's good. Now, I want to send that to the back, so I could do Shift, Command, or Control, and left bracket, and they'll send that to the back. And then let's do the paste in front, and that was that shape. And what I'm going to do is we'll just duplicate this shape by, get my main selection tool and just pull this up and move it up a little bit like this. Okay, and we're going to connect those two in just a second. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to move this out a little bit. We'll trim it off. Okay, but let me move that up a little bit more here, and then I'm going to get my pen tool. So I'm going to connect these two half circles here. There we go. Okay, now you can see what I'm doing. See, this is what I love about Illustrator. You know, it's just once you learn it, it makes your life a lot easier when building things. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim this stuff off here. I'm going to click on this shape and this shape, and let me just turn off my template there for a second. And we're going to zoom in, and I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut Shift M because that brings up the shape builder tool. This tool right here, okay? And both shapes are selected. So I've got the main body of the battery selected along with this other shape down here. And what I'm going to do is hold down my Alt key, and you see it becomes a minus. And so I'm going to get rid of this. Okay? We'll come over here. This shape builder tool really saves time. I wish they had it 20 years ago because it was so much harder to do stuff like this. So you can see this is really starting to shape up. Okay, and I'm not going to build the whole thing. I promise you that. But I do want to show you something cool here that we can do, and that is if we look at my drawing here. Let me go turn back my drawing for a second. You'll notice I've got these lines. I've got them in several areas here. I'm going to show you how I do that quickly in Illustrator and have greater control of how they're spaced. Because this is one of the main reasons I like using Illustrator sometimes. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a line. I'm going to try to keep it parallel to this line here. And let's fill that with a stroke. So we've got to bring our stroke to the front there and fill it with black, okay? And then let me go to my, I got my strokes over here, my stroke palette. And we'll just maybe make that up to 2. Yeah, there you go. All right, now what I'm going to do is let's just duplicate that or draw another one. I'm going to drag this. So if I start dragging something again and hold down my Alt key, then the Alt key, you see what happens there when I hold down the Alt key? That little double pointer comes out. Well, that means I'm duplicating it. And so now and then I let go, and I got a duplicate over there. Okay, so let me get my direct selection tool, which A is the keyboard shortcut, and just alter the angle there. Okay, now I'm going to put one more in here. So we'll put one more right there, and we're going to straighten it up. Like this. And we're going to thicken it up just one more. Because, again, if this is going in perspective, then what's going to happen is the the line that's closest to us is going to be thickest, and those that are farther away are going to be thinner. Okay, so let me get my blend tool. I think W is a keyboard shortcut. Now, blends were created a long time ago, and they were created to do gradients, and this is before the gradient tool came about. Okay, so I'm going to click on this point here, and then I'm going to click on this point here. Whoa, I missed it. Okay, all right, let's do this again. Let me come back over here. Oh, there we go. Now let's deselect for a second here, and then we'll come back here and we'll see about doing this. There we go. Okay. Sometimes you have to play around with that because what it's doing is it's calculating a blend, and I've already got this set up. If we double click on the blend tool, what's going to happen is I have it set to specified steps. Typically, it's set to smooth color. Okay, and when it's set to smooth color. Let me click OK here for a second. And I'm just going to show you what this was intended for. So I'm going to click these two. I'm going to use my direct selection tool. I'm just going to pick a color here. But see, it creates this gradient. That's what it was originally intended for years ago. And you can create all kinds of cool gradient effects, wavy ones. And I'll just show you a quick example here. Like something that the... So we'll take this, and let me go duplicate this. And change its color to something completely different, and then use the blend tool. And the reason I'm showing this is just because, see, that's cool. See, you get some cool effects with the blend tool. Let me see if that's set to specified steps, because I've already done it. But if we go smooth color, see, it'll do that. And that's one of the things you can do with the blend tool that you can't do with the gradient tool is getting some really interesting effects like that. Okay, so let me just delete that. I don't need that anymore. Okay, and let me go back to here, and we'll change all the strokes to black. There we go. Okay, so when it changed it all to black, it did that. Now, one of the things I want to do is just kind of play around. For some reason, when you have two blends, because this is what this is, two blends together, it creates this line. It doesn't do it if you just do a blend between two lines. It used to do it, and I'm trying to figure out how to do it again. But anyway, when I blended from this line here to this line here, and then I blend from here to here, it creates this vector line that's invisible. If we click off it, you don't see it. But what I like about this is if I use my pen tool, or actually it's this tool here. I'm going to hold down my Alt key. It becomes a convert anchor point tool, and I'm trying to get on it. Because what happens is, as a convert anchor point tool, you can pull it out, and what it does is it begins to do this. So you can actually alter the angle of this, all right? And so that's much better there, okay? And I'm going to come in here and just play with this a little bit more here. Maybe angle that up or a little closer here. We'll see here. But ideally, this is how I did this. And I'm going to leave it like this. Because I'm going to trim it off in Photoshop, okay? And so this gives you an idea of how I made this entire battery. And let me go over here, see if there's anything I'm missing. So you can see how I did all these blends on these shapes. And I let them bleed out for two reasons. One is they're strokes. And strokes, if you cut them, they don't cut evenly, okay? So, if you were to try to trim this off, let me see if I can, let me unlock this layer down here really quickly. Probably all the way down here. So first of all, this is a blend, and second of all, I'd have to expand it, and third, if we go and let's do expand just to show you, because here's a cool thing: you can always expand your things, and now these become strokes, okay? And so if we do this and hold down, we'll get the main selection tool and hold down the shift key and get that shape beneath it, and then do shift M and trim this stuff. You can already begin to see what I'm talking about. All right, let me zoom in here so we can take a look. So it does that, and mind you, I could just trim it quickly in Photoshop or Procreate, because remember I did the original in Procreate. So I just wanted to show you the reasoning behind why these are left out like that, and we're going to take care of that in a moment. Now here's the deal: I actually place all these things on separate layers, so that because what we're going to do is we're going to write this as a Photoshop file. We're going to export it. So I separated things and stacked them, and this will help us as far as how this thing is layered. And yeah, this is a bit of a task to do all this, but it's going to save time when I end up painting it. Okay, so I've got all these situated. Let's just go and export this out, and we'll go to File. We'll go to Export, Export As. And the one thing before I continue here, one thing I want to mention is I have turned off these layers. So if we turn off layers and export, those layers will not get written. Okay? And that is one of the cool features about this exporting thing, is that it will export out, the layers will go into Photoshop. I'm going to do it on the desktop here because this is just a demo. And we hit export, and then we want to write layers, okay? And we want high resolution, and we want maximum editability, okay? And art optimized, because this is for art and not text, okay? Or type, that is. And then we click OK. And it's creating a Photoshop file. Okay. Now I've got one set up already, but I'm going to go through and fix this because this takes a while, and it's not going to take too long. But let's open it up. There it is. Okay. And let me go and look at my layers. And here's the situation. I've got some of these things, and I'm looking for these blends, because sometimes what it does with blends is, there we go. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flatten these. So like for this, we'll just come in here. We'll select that group. We'll come over here and we'll do merge group, or Command E. Okay. So now it does that. And now I'm going to do the same for this. Even though these are not blends, these are all separate shapes, but they're separated because they're separated in space. So, they're not overlapping each other. So let's just do Command E, and it makes that flat. Okay, let's see. Check this out. Same thing here. All right, Command E, and up here, yeah, see all those blends right there. We'll do Command E, and I think that's everything that I needed to do there. So now I've got the whole thing situated. So now let me go and make this. We'll zoom out here. And I'm going to make this thing larger, let's just make it larger. One way to make it larger is going to Image and Canvas Space, and we'll probably do that, but I'm going to show you another way too. And what I'm looking for is my little drawing here. Okay, so my drawing, let me go and check my image size. Let me move this over so you can see. There's my drawing. Okay, put these together there. Okay, so now let's go to image size and see what this image size is, and see it in inches. Now, mind you, we want to work smaller, so we'll change that when we get, and we could probably change it right now, because we want a maximum height of 2.5 inches, and actually I'm going to end up cropping it too. So why don't we do this? Because in the end, because this is my demo, mind you, But I have a file where it's cropped, and it looks so much better. I might have put it away for the moment. But anyway, so I'm just going to crop this the way I did, because it really looks better this way, because it really focuses on the battery there, okay? So I won't have to paint all that other stuff. Okay, now let's go to image size. Image size, we'll do 2.5. Okay, and it's going to be 2 inches wide, which is, hey, that's cool. I didn't know it was going to land like that. It's going to be, just it's a perfect 2 inches and not 2.1 or something. So let's go to click OK. An integer between 1 and 3,000 is required. What do you mean by that? Oh, this is pixels. Switch to inches. Sorry about that. 2.5. That's why. Okay, now you see it's not perfect. But that's fine. That's fine. We don't worry about that. I was just wondering, why was that at 2 point? Okay, so anyway, there we go. Now what we're going to do is let's play around with this, and I'm going to plop this in here. We'll have to make this smaller here too, but it's all a matter of, this is, if our background, I'm trying to say too much at once, I apologize, but let me go and hit the D key, because it'll turn to the default fill and stroke. So if our background is set to white and we use our cropping tool, instead of cropping we go out, it'll just add space. This is really one of the quickest, easiest way. The other way is by doing, and we'll just click off that. The other way is by doing canvas space, because in canvas space you can add more space this way. So, we could add in, let's say 4, because we're going to reduce this again, okay? And let's say this is, I don't know, 5, okay? So it gives us something like that. And, like I said, the other way to do this is with the crop tool. And it took me a long time to realize that, because this saves a lot of time if you need to add more space to your picture in Photoshop. And this is one of the things I love about Photoshop. Okay. Now, what we're going to do is, I'm going to just plop this thing on top of this. And so we'll just drag this over here. Okay. And we need to have this on the top layer. Okay, we'll set that to multiply and just lower the opacity. So now we're going to make our battery smaller here. So we're going to go and click all these layers here. And this is so much easier in Photoshop, because in Procreate you have to kind of combine all the layers or put them in a group. So, oops, I'm holding down my Shift key. I don't want to hold down my Shift key, because my Shift key will allow me to distort. That's one of the alterations. So now let's make this smaller so it'll fit around where our drawing is at. It doesn't have to be perfect. But at least we'll get it kind of where I want it at. There we go. Okay. And then we'll hit return. And now let's crop our image down to the size it needs to be at. It may not be totally perfect, because I'm manually doing this. I could type in, because here's another thing here. Let me show you this too. With cropping, you can do aspect ratio. So we could do, I think it's the first one. Let's do 2.5 by 2. Oh, wrong way. I do 2 by 2.5. I do this all the time. If I need to have something. So now it's got that in proportion, actually. So now we can just drag this where it needs to be at. And drag this here. So I'll keep that in proportion there. All right, great. All right, that's fine. Now, let's go in and start doing some editing on this thing before I paint the background. And we'll turn this off, that top layer off for a moment. And I'm going to come in here, and we're going to just do some basic editing with these shapes that go outside. So I'm looking now. One of the things I don't like about Photoshop is the preview in on the layers, because it makes it hard to see things. So I'm going to go and select. Let's see here. I think it's this layer here. Yeah. Okay. So in order to select a layer, you hold down your Command key and click on the icon like that, and we'll do Shift Command or Control, depending on if you're on PC, I, and that will invert that. Now let's go up to this layer, and we'll get an eraser and make sure my erasing brush, let's look at where my brushes are at. They're somewhere up under here. Yeah, there they are. Brush settings. We'll do this. We'll get a hard round brush set to 100% opacity and flow. Now we just trim that right off there like that. Okay. So it gets rid of everything that's sticking out. Command D. All right. So now let's go and look at my layers and go and find the next things that need to be cropped. Okay. And yeah, that's this. So this needs to be cropped, and we're going to crop it with this shape. So again, we'll do this, and we go up to wrong. I think it's this black. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because in the old days, I might be able to change the settings on it. I just have it set. Yeah. In the old days, you could actually see the things much easier, and it may be just a setting they have changed for. But anyway, let me do Shift Command I and get to erasing this stuff out. Okay. I see there's stuff sticking out from, not there, probably, is it this shape? No. Oh, it's this shape. Yeah, okay. See that little bit right there? Nope, gotta go to that shape. All right, there we go. All right, so now I've cropped all that out. Now let's find, yeah, here's this. Okay, I found that. Now, okay, good. So let me get this. We'll select that. Do Shift Command I. We'll come up to this layer, and we'll get rid of all the stuff that sticks out there. Whoops. Command D. Yeah, something went awry here. Okay. Yeah, all these are on the same for some reason. Yeah. Well, you know, if that's the case, we're just going to have to manually, or, yeah, it was just a little flaw with me. So I'm just going to have to manually go in there and make sure I'm on the right layer. Because I was in a bit of a hurry when I collapsed all those layers. There's obviously, this was in a group. So I'm just going to have to manually do this because those are all kind of connected together. I apologize about that. I don't know why I'm apologizing. Okay, but I am. So let me go up to here. I'm looking for all these other things here. All right, so that's sticking out. There we go. All right, so let's select cancel. There we go. Shift Command I. Go up to this layer here and hit the erase that out there like this. So I'm just getting rid of all this stuff that I don't need. And you know that already. I'm just talking to fill in these quiet moments. All right, let's see here. All right, there we go. So we need, not that shape, this shape. Okay, Shift Command I, and we go up to here, and we hit erase there. Okay, then we're going to go to this layer here, and we're not going to do Shift Command I because we're just going to go to the layer down above it and just delete that. Okay, cancel all that. All right, Command D. Now everything is situated. You know, that looks better there. Okay, now we're going to turn on this for a moment, and we're going to make our planet. And in order to make our planet, it's good to have some reference here. Also, we're going to need a black background. So let me go here, and we're going to go all the way to the bottom and make a new layer and drag it underneath here. Oops, I didn't want to do that. Cancel. There we go. Now we're going to fill this layer with black. So we'll just do Alt-Delete. Okay. And then we're going to make a new layer here. And we'll just lower that black a little bit, or turn it off for the moment until we get our planet in place. Now there's several ways we could do this, but probably the easiest way is to use the ellipse tool. Now the other thing too is Photoshop has tools like this. So I'm just going to use the paths tool. I'm going to use it for just a path because I want to be able to edit it. And I'm going to hold down my Shift key. And what I'm doing is I'm holding down Shift and Alt so we can get, because Alt will draw out from the center. Now this doesn't have to be perfect here. And so we're just going to move this over here. Oh, I got to use this. I got to use this selection tool there. Okay, that's good. Okay, very good. Now, in our paths, if I want to keep this path, we got to double click it and save it. We could name it if we want to, but anyway. And I could have created the battery all in Photoshop too, but it won't do the blends. Okay, I apologize for hitting my, if you're hearing that I'm hitting my headphone by mistake there. So what I want to say is that Photoshop can do a lot that Illustrator can do with paths, but it won't do the blend. So that's why I used Illustrator for this project. Okay, so now let me go and load my selection. Okay, and we're just going to pick a color off this to start with, okay? And we'll do Alt-Delete. Okay, good. All right. And then let's turn my picture off for a moment and turn my background back on. Right there, okay, Command-D. And then we're just going to do some painting now. And we're going to pick some different colors so that this is colorful, because I don't want to go directly to black, because a lot of times it just gets up. Let me make sure I use, yeah, here we go. Here's this. Okay, now let's go pick the darker color for down here. And we're going to lower my opacity down to 30, because we don't need it set that high. Okay, that's not bad. And then we'll do a little bit of a lighter color around the edge. Oops. You know what? I gotta lock those pixels, and I haven't done that. Let me go back. Okay. Lock your pixels. It's in Procreate, it's alpha lock. So again, I apologize. Let me go and look at this for a second. I think I've got shape dynamics on this. Yeah, let's turn the shape dynamics off. Makes my life a lot easier. Raise my opacity up to 50. Okay, now that's much better. Oh, see, that is very nice. Now, I don't want to go too light. Now, one of the things I like about, there's just different things I like. One thing I like about Procreate is I can do this and then hold down, and it'll make a perfect elliptical shape. But that's no issue with that. All right, so I wish the two programs could they could adapt them. So now I've got my water there. So now let's make another layer, and we're going to make our continents. All right, because it's important to have something else in here. And so I'm going to pick a lighter color here off this image. Okay, and I'm going to take my same brush, but we're going to make it harder edged. Okay, and Oh, raise my opacity up to 100%. Because here's the deal. You always want to work with silhouettes in the beginning. It's important to create a good, strong silhouette on its own layer in Photoshop or Procreate, and then you lock the pixels and you can paint inside. All right, I'm going to use this same brush to erase out with. So let me go to my brushes. And here's this, and then we're going to use this same brush, and I'm just trying to shape this. Now, this won't look identical to what I did before, but at least it'll start off here. Okay, then we'll erase out. So I'm just making it, like I said, I'm making a silhouette. It's not going to stay this color. I don't even know if we'll be able to see that, to be honest with you. So let's just stop, okay? Because we're going to add clouds on it, and there's going to be that exhaust. So let me lock the pixels on this layer, and then we'll use the same brush, just lower the opacity, and pick off some of these other colors here. And we can zoom in on this picture. Yeah, see, that's a better color. And we'll work on our flow too, meaning I'm going to hold down a shift key and lower the flow to 50%, and then pick a color in here and just... Doesn't have to be perfect. We'll pick off some of this darker green, because a lot of that's going to get covered up. And, to be honest with you, I'm probably done here. It's just me being picky, Okay, so let's call that into that for the moment. Now, what we're going to have to do is make some clouds. So I'm going to select this shape and go above the continents and make another layer. And then let's go and look for my Kyle brushes that deal with clouds, because that's what I used. So we got to go to the concept brushes. Okay, let me see here. We've got... Okay, here we go, guys. Scattered. I might have used sun-kissed or windswept. Alright. And let me just make that brush much smaller. We'll switch to white. And lower the opacity down to maybe 30. Oh, actually, that hit the flow. So bring that back up to 50. Actually, you know what? We're going to do this at 100%. Because we're going to paint inside after just a little bit. So... Yep. Most of this stuff's going to be covered up. And if we need to erase out, which is what I'm going to do here, I'm going to go and use the same brush. Well, here's the problem with the Kyle brushes. Let me go to my brushes. Let's go to erase. And when I click that, here's the problem. I can't erase it. Because now in Procreate, I can use the same brush to erase with. In Photoshop, it's not written that way. This brush is a brush and it can't become anything else, okay? Unless there's some way to go in there and change those settings. But what we can do is we can do a layer mask. And so if I click this button here, then I can actually kind of come in here and I'm painting with black in this layer mask, and you see what it's doing there. It just, and then what I can do is afterwards I can, I think I just, if I hit delete, we'll do apply, and therefore that's set. Okay, so that's not bad. We'll do now. The other thing we want to do to make this look a little bit more realistic is we want to make another layer below the planet. Oops, hitting the wrong key. Let's get a soft. Let's get that brush I was using before. This one that has a harder. We'll make it harder. And then let's click this, and we'll just make a glow back here, and maybe just a little bit more fuzzy. There we go. I'm going to lower the opacity on this so we can build it up a little bit more slow. We'll do the same thing over here. And that starts to look like our planet. Now, we're going to go and make another layer. Make sure we're keeping track of all these layers here. I could group all of my battery parts here so they're separated out. So we could do that and just call this battery. Okay. But anyway, on this layer, I want to start doing the rocket thrust, and I'm just going to use a hard round brush. And we're going to pick off some color. Now, I could pick off my colors there, but really I was picking colors off of this thing right here. So let me pick off some colors here, and we're going to just start drawing. Whoops. Let's bring this up to 100% opacity and flow, because, again, we're making a silhouette layer. So before we do anything, and if we need to see this, so I could turn this on, so it lets me see kind of what I was intending to do here. And we can zoom in. I zoom out a lot. I think it helps sometimes, because otherwise, if I'm zoomed in, I get so caught up on the detail. And oops, I'm just trying to move that up and move this down here. Okay, so let's turn this off. And yeah, that's not bad. Maybe we'll just add a little bit more down here like this. Okay, so now we can lock the pixels on that, and we'll pick some different colors off of here and start playing around here. Let's see here. I think I picked about the same color there. Let me pick off this yellow. And I don't have much reference there, but, you know, I know kind of what I want to happen. Now, it might be a good idea to go and look at lots of pictures of rocket thrusts, and I was trying to do that last night, but I couldn't find exactly what I was looking for. So that's why I'm just sort of playing around here. And then we can also do that. And then okay, that looks enough like what I was looking for. Now, we could play around in here a little bit more, but I'm going to just start I'm going to click all the orange here, and let's get the soft round brush again here. We'll use this one here. Make sure the shape dynamics are turned on. Yeah, okay, good. And then let's pick up a little darker color here, like this, okay. Now, what I could do, but you know what? I want to keep it simple. I was thinking what I could do, and this is the reason why I selected all this. And if I want to, we just put this on another layer here. So we'll paint that there, okay? And let's pick off, I don't know, maybe that color and do that there, like that. Okay, and then let me go in here and click on my yellow. Come down here. Okay, and then we'll make another layer for that so we can just play around with these things, and if we need to, we can collapse them later. But, you know, I'm just trying to make this look. Okay, now what we're going to do is just, let's use white. DX. And we'll lower the opacity. See, I'm working with 100% flow and opacity, which is fine. You know, because this is supposed to be like an icon. And icons don't have as much detail as illustrations, but I made mine with a lot of detail because I wanted to use this for an illustration, okay? So that's not bad there now. So that's starting to look a little bit better. Let's go in here and we'll trim off E. I say E because I'm using my eraser. Sorry about that. Alright, and again, I'm apologizing to you guys. So let's fix this here. Let's fix that there. Now, the other thing I had going on here, which was kind of an accident when I painted this, and that is I made this one layer, and if we can view it here, I made that. And when I did it, I said, it just doesn't look right. But then I put it above the layers, and it looks very nice. So I'm going to do something similar to that, okay? So what I'm going to do is let's just paint in at 100% flow opacity something that's similar. Make sure I'm not on my eraser brush. And make sure my opacity's set up to 100. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to kind of paint this again, but make it fuzzier by using soft brushes. Okay. And we'll lock the pixels on that. And then I'm going to pick colors off mine now. And go to white. And let's lower the opacity, because I've just been working straight up color. Sometimes accidents cause some cool things, you know, those happy accidents that Bob Ross used to talk about. So that's what this is going to be here. Let's set this to, let's see, hard light perhaps, which looks pretty cool. Got vivid light. See, I like using my blending mode sometimes on things. Ooh, yeah, hard light. Let me do color. Ooh. That's kind of cool. That really is souped up there. I'm going to use that for this, and then we could just lower the opacity a little bit. Wow, that really shines. Okay, so now we can start painting on our battery. And the battery, this is the fun part for me. We just got to make sure we alpha lock all these layers here. So let me see if I can just select them all and do that at the same time, because that would just make my life a lot easier. And by doing that, it's, you know, I say alpha lock. This is a pixel lock in Photoshop, alpha lock in Procreate. But basically what happens is we're not going to paint outside of those colors. And I'm looking for, yeah, that right there. Okay. So for this right here, I've got my soft edge brush. Bring down the flow to 60. So I'll do shift Yes, and bring down the opacity down to 40, perhaps. Okay, and again, I can start picking colors off there, but really what I want to do is, let me see, I've got all these cool references up. And I might just use black, to be honest with you, you know. But I'm thinking maybe I could use something kind of in here to start with. And this is what's going to make it look real. Because in order for that to work, and this is something I learned a long time ago, in order to have this light source, which just is so incredible, we've got to have strong contrast like that. And so that's what's going to make that look a lot better. I'll just do that right here. Okay. Then let's shade the battery. I'm going to go up here. See, this to me is the fun part. And I'm not going to shade it all because I think once I start shading enough of it, you're going to see what I did here. Oops. Yeah, it's this layer. And actually, I'm going to go to black for a moment. Ooh, that looks cool. And lower the opacity down to 20, okay. And then I'm going to shade just a little bit like that. And then I'm going to pick this lighter color here. And I'm going to set my brush to, because you can set your brush to all kinds of things. I'm going to set it to dissolve. Because dissolve does kind of like this, but maybe it's too much. Maybe it's too much. Maybe what I want to do is airbrush. Dissolve is kind of a cool thing, you know. So we can use a splatter brush. I'm going to go and pick up an airbrush here. And I just got to go find it here. We got default brushes, which might be within there. Let's look at my default brushes, I think. This is my legacy brushes, by the way. Okay, there it is. There. So again, like last time, in case you didn't watch any of my other tutorials or you forgot here, you need to load up your legacy brushes. And in your legacy brushes, within the default brushes, so that's the first set of brushes in there, there's the airbrush, okay? And so let me see what happens if we paint that way, okay? Low density grain. Yeah, I'm not. Oh, I got it set to dissolve. Back to normal. Well, that's not doing exactly what I want it to do. We'll go back to that in just a second. I'm going to use my soft round brush like this. And just lighten that up. And lighten it up on the edges here, too. Like here. Okay, so it gives it much more greater. And let me see about using this airbrush now. And see, sometimes I just want some texturing, even though it's metal. You know, we just want a little bit of that. I kind of did that on this a little bit, not by much. Oh, maybe I didn't. Sorry about that. Again, I'm apologizing. So let me go back here and okay. I'm just wanting to bring that back up here. Let me do some, and you know, I'm still using my airbrush just to see. But we'll switch back. Actually, I wasn't. I'm just playing around. Usually this doesn't take as long, but okay, that's good enough for the moment. Because we're going to go back in and do some other things. Because we've got to do this one right now. So we got the alpha lock on that. We'll use a dark here. Because this will make this look a lot better once we do that. And then again, we want to do this here. Okay, now let's go to our, these. Okay, so we want to go and shade these really dark where the rocket thruster, where the thrust is coming out, and up against the body there. And see, all this starts to shape up pretty quickly. You know, once I start just going in there, all the hard part was doing the Illustrator art. And I'm just trying to find. Yeah, there's that one. See, in the old days, we didn't, before digital, there was airbrush. And I had an airbrush, but I didn't care much for it because in order to do everything, you had to make masks, friskets. You had to cut out things so that you get nice sharp edges. So that's basically what I'm doing by using those shapes in Illustrator or making paths in Photoshop or doing any type of silhouette is I'm doing a frisket, and so that, we get a nice sharp edge. So anyway, I hope this helps you out because I can keep painting on this. One thing I did do, like I said, I can keep painting on it, show you more, but I think you can see most of what I had done to the battery itself. One thing I did do, which I think is very important because we want to make our objects shiny and bright and glimmering. And one thing I noticed that what a lot of these icons do is they do this kind of it's like a rim lighting. So what I'm going to do is, for this, I'm going to take my battery, we'll duplicate it, okay, and we're going to flatten it. So Command E, okay, we'll bring it up underneath there, and we'll lock the pixels. And I'm going to pick a lighter color over here like this. And then let me just make this larger here. Oh, I didn't do that. Okay. I didn't fill it. So let me do Alt Delete. Now let's raise this up a little bit. There we go. And we can distort by holding down the Command key. There we go. See, we got that now. Now let's just go and we'll hit Return. And we're going to do Filter. And we're going to do Blur and Gaussian Blur. Okay. Oh, the pixels are locked. Can't really do a Gaussian blur if the pixels are locked. So let's go back here, blur, Gaussian blur. There we go. Look at that. See, we can make that really glow there. And I'm not completely done, but as you can see, you can pretty much understand what I'm doing with this now in order to get my final one, wherever it went to. Oh, well, it is over here. Okay, that's one, and then, this one is the one I cropped. Okay, and I put stars in. I showed you how to do stars last in one of the tutorials. I think I did. If we want to do stars, I actually have some star brushes, and I don't know if they're loaded up here, but what I did was here's my star brushes. All of these brushes I actually made by using Illustrator shapes, okay? So let me show you something here before I quit this tutorial. And if you're still watching and you have it, what I'm going to show you is how to create a brush, okay? And so, we can make a brush from anything, really. You can make a brush from using different textures. What we need to do is paint with black. And I'm just gonna paint something quickly here with a hard round brush. I'm gonna set this to 100% flow, 100% opacity, and let's say I just make a shape here, like just some kind of weird. I'm just playing. Maybe what I might do is go in here and get a textured brush for a second here. use cross hatching. Maybe one of these faux brushes. Yeah, okay, let's use one of these faux brushes. What I'm going to do, well, actually, I want to erase. So make sure we'll use this. And we'll just, whoops. I'm looking for my layers, I apologize. Okay. Well, you know what I did was, I'm going to do this. Let's just select all that. And we're going to go up above a layer like this. We're going to do, we're going to copy it. Now, in the background layer, I'm going to fill that with white because I was painting on my background layer. It's better to do this above. Now let's go to erase. And so now, let's say I want this as a brush. What I can do is I can select it, and then what I do is I hit the main selection tool there, and then I'm going to use my brackets, not my brackets, but my arrow, so it starts to move it. But really, what it does is it selects it. Okay, so now we've selected that, and then we go to edit, and we go to define brush preset. And this will be a sample brush. So we're making a new brush here. And I think it does it at the bottom here. We've got too many brushes in here. Let me bring this up a bit. There it is. There's my sample brush. So now, make a new layer here. Do Command D so we don't have it selected. And oops, let's paint it with black. And see, that's a new brush. And now you can, and of course, the thing is with brushes, and we'll undo that, is that you could change your brush settings on this. So now if we want to play with shape dynamics or scattering it, we'll go scatter it out here. Raise the count there. Let's go to brush tip. We're going to just lower that out like that. And, see? I've just created this new brush. And so, in order to make those star brushes, what I did was, I'm going to go back over to Illustrator for just a second here. Delete that. And that is, let's go to Illustrator, and we're going to make a few star brushes here. We'll just do it on this for the moment. Or actually, you know what? And we'll use a fill of black and no stroke. And let's go and make some stars. So, yeah, we can make a star like that, but if we click, we can make an 8-sided star. Okay. So I'm going to make an 8-sided star, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and do up under effect, I'm going to do distort, and I'm going to do pucker and bloat. And we're going to pucker this thing. And see, that's how we can create some really nifty looking stars here, okay? Is by using pucker and bloat on this thing. All right, that's one star. Now let's make another star. Maybe make this 10-sided. And what we're going to do is, let's reduce the radius down to, let's say, 1.5. There we go. I like that. Let's zoom in here. And do pucker and bloat on this. And distort. And pucker and bloat. Okay. Now, we can export this out. We'll just use, or we could drag it over there. Let me see about that. Let's see how that goes. Just pull this over into Photoshop. Okay, there we go. Yep. There it is. Let's hit this. Okay. And then let's turn this into Convert to, we'll just rasterize it. If I can find the right rasterize layer. There we go. Okay. There we go. Now, let's do the other one. Well, we'll do this one first. So now it's on its own layer. Again, what we want to do is select, get the selection marquee, hit the V key to get your selection tool, and then just use your arrow key to nudge it, and it will select around it. And then we're going to go to Edit and define brush preset, and we'll call this star 1 or SAR 1. Okay, click OK, and then see, there's the star brush. Okay, I don't need to bring the other one over, so I think you understand how to do this now. So now on this star brush, what we're going to do is we'll go to our brush settings, and we'll space it out. Okay, and then we're going to use some shape dynamics on it. So it's set to pin pressure. Okay, angle jitter. So set that to pin pressure. So what's going to do is it's going to move. It's going to do that. Now let's see here. There is also, so there's roundness. There's that. We'll scatter it. Okay. And now let's go to another layer here. Well, actually, I got another layer here. Let's do this. Let's just take this background layer and just do Command D, Alt Delete. Okay, and turn that off. And then on this layer, we'll paint with white for the moment. Okay, and now you see I can do all kinds of stars. Boom. I think yeah, I did show this in class, but now I've shown you how to make a star brush and how to have fun there. So anyway, I hope this tutorial will help you out. And if you have any questions, just ask me in class or send me an email. Okay.